Welcome to Issues and Answers with your host Diane Kinderwater. Issues and Answers is presented as a public service to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. And now, Issues and Answers with your host Diane Kinderwater.
Welcome to the program. I'm Diane Kinderwater, and we thank KCHF TV for bringing you many candidates. Those who touch Bernalillo County, we've been able to invite on the program, and if they have the opponents, they are invited, and those who have accepted are on our air. Now we're very pleased to have Congressional District 1, we're going to explain where that is, which touches part of Bernalillo County, Santa Fe County, along the Rio Grande, north central to a little bit northeast. Our candidate running as Republican is Steve Jones. He's a candidate for CD1, as they say, and he's on our program today. He's going to tell you why he's running for this position, why he wants your vote. We know Election Day is November 5th, Tuesday. Many of you maybe are voting now, but what he hopes to do to improve the state of New Mexico. We'll be back with Steve Jones right after this. Stay with us. Hi, thanks for staying with us. I'm Diane Kinderwater. We have candidate Steve Jones, a Republican running for CD1, Congressional District 1, and that again is touching part of Bernalillo County up the Rio Grande corridor, kind of north central to a little bit northeast. And welcome to the program.
Well, thank you, Diane, and thank you to Anthony and to Mary Kay, actually back there in the production booth. Appreciate the opportunity to be here at KCHF. I understand this station actually was the very first Christian station nationwide that used VHF, so I'm honored.
Very much. And you're a Christian, attending
yeah.
the Lutheran Church, I believe. Tell me a little bit about your faith.
Well, actually, I inherited that. My family came from Norway, and I've been there to the church my family originally came from, and we go back 300 years as Lutherans. So we have time in the religion.
Very good. Thanks again for this. Why the heck are you running for a congressional seat?
Okay, first there is this. Viva Nuevo Mexico, una tienda encantada. It's the land of enchantment. So it's the positive first, as I told you, Diana. I like to start positive. What a wonderful state, rich in resources, wonderful people, the Hispanic culture, a lot of federal dollars coming our way, and I could go on and on and on. Sometimes we forget the state has tremendous resources. Sometimes we take them for granted and squander them. But more specifically, I'm kind of worried that we're not getting the response to the fact that we've been on the bottom of the list of most states for quite a while, and the voters are not responding. So I'm trying to get that message out. The progressive politics, as much as they dream of a version of the future, actually, over the last several decades, it's failed miserably, and that's why we're at the bottom of the list, in spite of all these resources that I described. And so, number one, I'm interested in trying to revive New Mexico and utilize all of these wonderful resources. But the Democrat monopoly in the state has two problems with it, significant problems. One, when you have a monopoly, and none of us like a monopoly, we all know it's bad. Sometimes in politics, we're not sure exactly why. I mean, if you're a Dem, you're saying, okay, my team's winning, so how can that be bad? Well, the way it is bad, Diane, is the party completely ignores the voting bloc of Democrats. They're taking them for granted, completely take them for granted. You saw that with the way that Joe Biden was snatched out of the presidential race after winning the primary and then being replaced without a single vote in her favor by Harris. Now, that same kind of thing happens here when the Democrat Party ignores or takes advantage of the Democrats. Second,
oh, you're saying they're taking advantage of their own voters
people,
because
yes.
they have such a monopoly that they can afford to take them.
Care.
They can't afford. You're saying they can't afford to take them for granted because they'll know they'll get voted anyways.
They are taking advantage of them because they are lockstep. Like I opened up, I'm concerned that this negativity in our state, which is the result of 10 plus years, the voters are not snapping to that, and that's the reason why. They're basically taking advantage of it. Now, second item is it allows itself, the Democrat Party, to be controlled by probably 5 people. So now we have an oligarchy. We have people who are basically telling everybody in the state, the Democrat Party and everybody in New Mexico, how it's going to be. We saw that with our fair governor when she absolutely shut down the state in spite of small businesses and made so many people suffer through a period unnecessarily. So those are the two reasons.
That was a strong-handed position to take as one person. One person decided the fate of everybody.
The one person who absolutely has the complete control of the Democrat Party. So much so that she fielded 20-something candidates, the emerge progressive candidates, to run against her own incumbent Democrats. What was their big sin? They were conservative or moderate. They actually did see reason. They took a reasonable approach to politics and then actually made the cardinal sin of actually voting with Republicans on things that made sense for the benefit of the New Mexicans.
But voters vote for them. Voters have a vote. They have a vote, and they voted. We have 3 congressional seats. You're running for CD1,
yes.
one of the 3.
Yes.
Currently, all Democrats hold all 3 seats, and the 2 Senate seats.
The 2 Senate, the governor.
The governor, and
Diane, all statewide. That's why I call it a monopoly. All statewide offices. And a substantial portion of both the Senate and the House of Representatives, so that basically 1 vote more and there will be a supermajority in both of those. Now, I'm not running for a state spot, but I make this observation. When it gets to that point, and she can strong arm the House and the Senate, there are going to be even worse bills coming in this next session.
So I get back to my original question. Steve Jones is running for New Mexico CD1. Why are you running? What are your chances in this monopoly as a Republican?
Well, clearly, in the heart of Bernalillo County, you have the vast majority of voters in CD1, number 1, and number 2, probably, I'll say 60 to 65% of those are registered Democrats. I'm assuming that given the right message, some of those Democrats are going to say, enough is enough.
So, Steve Jones, what is your message other than enough is enough? We're all tired of being at the bottom of all the bad lists. We're all tired of that. It hasn't changed in decades. How can it change, and what is enough, and what is your message to them?
Well, first off, as it relates to New Mexico, remember I'm running for a federal office, so as the state politics go, I can make observations, which I've been doing, but the real issue at the national level is even worse, Diane. Can you imagine even worse than New Mexico's situation? And the reason I say it's even worse is because when we had COVID, both parties, Republicans and Democrats, threw out a lot of money to solve that problem. And now, looking back in the rearview mirror, can you say it was too much or too little?
Too much.
No, here's the issue.
You can say, with inflation, we know it's too much.
We're alive because of whatever response the parties took. But there was a continuation of that spending level. As a matter of fact, it might have even been an acceleration. And we had some of these very innocuous bills passed, trillions of dollars. Now, what does this mean to my message? It means we are on a unsustainable course in terms of our federal government spending and our debt. Right now, debt service is equal to the Defense Department budget. We are in imminent danger, and nobody believes this, imminent danger of a federal bankruptcy. You can't keep it up. And yet nobody seems to want to take their foot off the throttle. And as I like to tell some people, maybe this CPA can put his finger in the dike and stop the bleeding, stop the leak. Now, it is true that the budget is not being resolved and it is difficult for the House and the Senate to agree on it. But my approach is, and contrary to my opponent, who says, I'm going to Washington to fight for you. You know what, Diane, I'm not going to Washington to fight. I'm going to go there as a problem solver. I made a lot of money in my career doing international problem solving and taking on a contingency basis where I basically bet that I could solve it in order to get compensation. If I didn't get a salary.
And you were a certified public accountant?
Yes.
Your financial background, University of Houston, Bachelor of Business Administration, a Master's of Science in Accounting, field certified as a public accountant. So what was your mission across the globe?
The
problem
mission
solve.
was actually, I'm going to be honest with you, almost always with the energy industry. Almost always, because I come from West Texas. Oil was in my blood, and maybe still. But I knew energy inside and out from a financial administrative point of view. And a lot of problems that arose were, for example, someone wanted to set up a company in Argentina at a time when they had 2,000% inflation. My job, go there and get a company set up and manage the currency exchange. And I can go on and on and on. We had, my wife and I just celebrated our 27th anniversary. Her name is Diana, so that's why it's easy to remember Diana. So we did travel a lot and ended up our last stint in this success fee oriented problem solving. We ended up in Senegal for 2 years. And again,
That's in Africa.
It's on the west coast of Africa. If you imagine the continent, the little knuckle that protrudes out to the west, Dakar, Senegal. And by the way, just kind of bringing it back around to the station's orientation, we had the opportunity to meet many, many missionaries to Africa. And I couldn't tell you, hundreds, because in the Francophone area of 5 countries, they all came to Dakar with their children to get education and food. And so we saw firsthand the kinds of sacrifices that these people make to take the word of God, to preach to and they were largely Muslims. 99% of them were Muslim, but we thoroughly enjoyed the dedication, and many of them have been there decades. So, long story short, that problem solving is a skill that I intend to take to Washington, D.C., and it's almost always involved, in my past, getting 2 parties who did not want to work together to at least get to a middle ground in order to achieve a desired result. Problem solving. We got a lot of them in Washington.
Yeah, a lot of problems and a lot of costs, a lot of expenses. What about the idea, I think one of the candidates has the idea to do, for federal government to do an accounting on each, or an audit. Is that?
Well, we have.
I mean, we were concerned as taxpayers. It's our money. If they say, oh, federal dollars, we're going to give all this. Well, guess what? It's our money that they're giving away. It's not something, it was just manufactured, but they just are giving our money away. Money that we earn, they're giving it to their choices. They're supposed to be our representatives. But regarding an audit, wouldn't that show waste and abuse?
Oh, without a doubt. Without it. It is a given that there's waste in federal government, which is why I'm a continual opponent to the federal government taking any more responsibility over our life, whether it is health insurance or housing or et cetera. When have they ever done a good job? And we want the most incompetent organization. We as Republicans, now you know this very well, the flag, when you look at the flag, has 13 stars, 50 stripes. And that is emblematic of the fact that we're not a democracy, as everybody contends. We are a republic. And a republic means each of the states gets 2 senators. Each of the states theoretically has input into the process. We are the governors, if you will, of all aspects of our life. That has been, well, first off, there would never have been a United States of America had it not been for that concession. Those colonies were from many different places, and they said, we are not going to get together and give all of the authority to a federal government. How smart they were. Ever since then, the federal government has been failing us.
What would you like the federal government to provide Americans? What would you like it?
There's a very good document on that subject. It's called the Constitution of the United States. You know what they say?
Just follow that.
Believe me.
Just follow that, okay.
Whenever I've traveled the world and looked at various countries, and I've been in communist, socialist, autocratic, theocracies, what I see is we are singularly blessed by the insight that the Founding Fathers had with our Constitution of the United States. Now, it's been amended, and it's not perfect, But as long as we uphold our oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, we're going to be a good country, if not a great country. That documents basic information is on two levels. What we as states have is all rights except those specifically enumerated in the Constitution of the United States for the federal government. Translated, if it doesn't say the federal government's got that authority, then it doesn't have the authority. And that's why people are all upset about the Supreme Court. You know what the Supreme Court's primary job is? To make sure that everybody recognizes we are governed by some documents, and those documents have to be followed. So the most damning thing that Congress can get word of is for them to be told that is unconstitutional. They don't like to hear it. You know, based upon what the end objective is, Democrats like to jump on one side. Oh, that's a federal issue. Oh, it's a state issue. You know, it's not a subjective issue. It is objective. Objective meaning the Constitution of the United States does it.
Steve, we have just a few minutes left. What would you like to tell people about yourself? You want to be a problem solver. You believe you have the background. You've done it across the world. You believe you can do it for our country in Washington, D.C. on behalf of New Mexico.
Can I be self-serving? Well, first off, to the viewers, stevejones4nm.com. And what you're going to find there is modestly some very good achievements throughout my career. Awards, achievements, honors. Among those, by the way, just to show I put my body where my mouth is I served in the military as an Army medic and received the Soldier's Medal for Heroism. That's the highest award that a non-combatant can get. So the website, and oh, by the way,
I've got it here, a lot of it here. Go ahead.
If you are feeling the urge to help solve federal problems with a candidate who's a CPA and a professional problem solver, there's going to be a very little convenient button that says donate now. Please take advantage of that. But anyway, we are going to see a change. It's when we hit bottom and can go no further, or someone like me comes forward and starts a movement to say, you've had your chance, progressives, and you have gotten no results.
Very good. And your website's easy to find. It's Steve
Jones. Now that's the number 4, the numeral 4, nm.com. SteveJones4nm.com. Never get tired of saying that.
You also achieved your Army medic, achieved the rank of Staff Sergeant, and as you said, the Soldier's Medal of Heroism. You have, I've got your little, I like it because it's brief and to the point and easy to read.
Well, you see the top 3 issues there.
Top 3
I think
issues.
those 3, there are many, 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 many federal issues. And you can't put them all on a palm card. But this palm card basically addresses the 3 that I think most New Mexicans, most people in the U.S. have at the top of their list. I think if you get into the website, you'll get further policies and explanation, but this serves as a brief, if you will, of my positions.
What are your hopes of becoming elected?
Well, clearly,
you're running against an incumbent.
An incumbent that was elected in a special election, has now served 2 full terms, and is in a county where the majority of the people here are 60% are registered Democrats. My only hope is that some Democrats who are watching are going to say, you know what, he's right. We've given the progressives long enough. I think that's where the tide would change if we reach those people. Now, I am talking with independents, and I am talking with the libertarians, the people who don't want to be associated with either party. And in this state, I'm sorry, I don't blame them. I don't blame them. There's a lot that's been disappointing for the people who have been Democrats and became independents or been Republicans. But those people need to get off the sidelines. And as they say, they're standing on the fence, they need to pick a side. And I'm offering that opportunity for them to get behind this campaign. If nothing else, communicate to the Democrat Party that they can no longer take advantage of or for granted the Democrats, and certainly not the voters of New Mexico.
They say the Democratic Party is not the party of John F. Kennedy.
Remember what he said, one of his most famous quotes. Don't ask what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. And by the way, formed the Peace Corps and expanded our efforts internationally. What we see now, Diane, and in last night's debate, the people running for office saying, hey, let me buy your vote, let me buy your vote. Now, they don't say it exactly that way.
They say, let me give you a way to get a new house, let me give you a
way.
way.
Here's another, and you know,
I wonder if people, where's that money coming from? We want to help you
the
get
Chinese
your first.
loan us that money. We don't have the money. Either that or the printing presses. The printing presses, Diane, that's why we have inflation. Because we spent more than the revenues. Where was it going to come from? We either borrow it from the Chinese or we run the printing press. When you run the printing press, now for those who say, oh, but it was inflation worldwide. You know why it was worldwide? Because we have dollars in all of the societies. Anyone who had dollars, anyone, even the Chinese, poor Chinese, if they could be called poor, they actually depended upon our debt and our dollars as a stabilizing factor, and now their economy is in a swoon. So yes, we do have an issue, as I've said before, that we are incurring a substantial amount of debt. One of the things that I want to get in real quickly is my opponent in a subcommittee said we need to meet the people who are trying to cross the border with social programs to help them. And someone on the other side of the aisle said, but you're talking about giving taxpayer money to people who are not even citizens. She said, you know what, you're right. What we need to do is send that money to Central America so that they won't even come here to start with. Well, Diane, have you ever looked at who's in charge of the governments of Central and South America? Dictators. They're coming here because those people are bad, and now she wanted to send them money. For God's sakes, that's just... Anyway, I get exasperated.
Securing the border, one of your priorities. Not your priorities, it's constituents' priorities.
Let's be clear. I was an immigrant's grandson. My Norwegian parents came here at the beginning of World War I. Immigration, we are the mixing bowl for the world. Everybody talks about it. For me to say anything negative about immigration would be not a fair thing to observe. But we cannot have uncontrolled immigration. And that's all I'm focusing on. And it doesn't, some people like to say, well, you are discriminating against Hispanics. No, I'm discriminating against illegals who come across the border. That's a word that's not popular now, but if they break our law as the very first thing they do when they come into this country, why will they ever follow any of our laws? They don't pay income taxes. Oftentimes, a lot of them don't want insurance on their cars, driver's license, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, let me give you a little episodic.
And we just have 2 minutes left.
Okay, episodically, my wife and I love Mexico. Absolutely love the Hispanic culture of New Mexico and Old Mexico. And we were in an immigration office. And in that immigration office, we asked them, what would you do to solve our immigration problems? And they said, follow the laws on your books. We also noticed that there were people who were quite obviously African and Middle Eastern there. We said, who are these people? And they said, Trump threatened to close the border if we don't stop this. On this issue, immigration, he knew that Mexico must take responsibility for their side of the border. The Mexicans, and I'm talking about the immigration people and the government people, know they've got an obligation as ours.
You also, in our 1 minute left, boosting the economy, protecting the Second Amendment. And again, they can learn more at stevejones4nm.com. But touching upon these?
Well, Second Amendment, I've already referenced. You don't tweak. Every leader cannot tweak the Constitution. Of all of the amendments, probably the most obvious, the most easily understood is they have the right to keep and bear arms. And it doesn't say except for or but or. So my point, and I don't own a gun. I'm a vegetarian. I served as a medic. I have never served in combat. But the Constitution is that important to me that no amendment should be tinkered with.
And boosting the economy?
Well, the economy is fun for me. I spent a lot of my career for free working to build small businesses. I did it with the SBA. I was the president of the Active Corps of Executives. I actually got hired off of the sidelines by the SBA to do 406 consulting. I would love to have, you know who Mike Rowe is, the America's Dirtiest Jobs guy. He has a program that is basically a joint venture between industry and a nonprofit to bring people who need training together, predetermined to go to a certain corporation. This economy has another benefit that they've overlooked, and that is when we had, let's call it NAFTA 2 come through, I read that and I said, this is a great deal for New Mexico. Do you know there's no programs to utilize the opportunities with our neighbors under that document?
But they have used.
But they have,
They have.
absolutely they have.
You're also the producer of Texas Financial News on PBS.
Whoa.
A lot. Ooh, it's a lot.
Now I'm showing my dirty laundry, Diane.
Go online.
So yes, it's fun.
And again, I won't say it, but I'm sure you'll say it. It's time to get out there and vote.
Well,
Do your You're running for office. That's a responsibility.
Yes.
Now, New Mexicans need to.
absolutely. And the Democrats especially, independents, libertarians, please, please realize those dreams that the progressives have had, they're actually New Mexico's nightmares.
Thanks for being a part of the program, Steve Jones, again
You're
running
welcome.
for CD1. Again, it's right up the Rio Grande, central New Mexico, and a little bit to the northeast. Appreciate KCHF TV for bringing you this program. It's a serious election, it affects all our lives, and if you don't understand that, just look at the grocery store list and how much you're paying for food and gas and know that, yeah, something happened here. Well, you have a choice and you have the ability to go out and vote. So please exercise that. It's a responsibility. Thanks again for watching. I'm Diane Kinderwater. Make it a great week with your family. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Issues and Answers with your host Diane Kinderwater is presented as a public service to inform, educate, and better the lives of New Mexicans. To comment on today's program or to purchase a copy of any Issues and Answers program, visit sunbroadcasting.org or call us at 505-345-1991.